What if everything you believed about a genius entrepreneur changing the world turned out to be a story built on smoke and mirrors? What if the vision of a medical revolution was never real, yet millions believed it? What if the hero you cheered turned out to be the architect of a great illusion? We live in an era of big promises, disruption, innovation, bleeding-edge breakthroughs. And the world loves a founder who claims they'll fix something impossible. But what happens when the impossible is just impossible? And when the system around us, hungry for the next big thing, turns a blind eye? This is the story of Elizabeth Holmes, the wonderkind, the visionary, the billionaire, and then the fall. Prepare to pull back the curtain. Elizabeth Ann Holmes was born on February 3, 1984 in Washington, D.C. Her mother, Noelle Ann Daoust, worked on Capitol Hill. Her father, Christian R. Holmes IV, held executive roles, including in government agencies. She grew up with ambition and a sense of otherness, a young girl immersed in ideas, engineering, Mandarin studies, dreaming of big change. At Stanford University, she studied chemical engineering. Already in her freshman year, she was working alongside PhD students. But the spark that lit the fire came during a summer internship. At the Genome Institute of Singapore, she worked on a project to detect SARS and started imagining something radical: blood testing, but painless, simple, tiny samples. In 2003, at just 19 years old, Holmes dropped out of Stanford and founded a company called Real-Time Cures, which later became Theranos, therapy plus diagnosis. She seeded it with her own tuition money and set out to rewrite medical diagnostics. She promised the world something extraordinary: a machine, a tiny drop of blood, hundreds of tests, fast, cheap, needle-free. In the world of Silicon Valley, this is exactly the kind of vision that attracts headlines. A female founder, bold ambition, a clean tech med-tech crossover, the promise of democratizing healthcare. By 2014, she was celebrated as the world's youngest self-made female billionaire, thanks to a valuation of Theranos at approximately $9 billion. She fashioned herself in the mold of Steve Jobs: black turtlenecks, a husky voice, secrecy, mystique. Her board was full of former statesmen, defense secretaries, luminaries. Her investors included media and retail giants. The hype machine was in full throttle. Theranos announced that it could run hundreds of tests on mere drops of blood. Conventional labs used milliliters of blood, long draws, long wait times. The narrative? Pain reduced, access widened, costs slashed, diagnostics transformed. The customers, the investors, the press, they bought in. It looked like a fairy tale: the lone female founder taking on big lab, big diagnostics, big health. She championed efficiency, patient-friendly approaches. She rode the wave of tech disruption in healthcare. By 2014-15, the world was looking at Holmes and Theranos and saying, "This is the future." The board, the dollars, the media profiles all lined up. She had the star power and the story. But underneath, cracks were forming. Behind the scenes at Theranos, employees raised concerns. The flagship machine, dubbed Edison, was supposed to be the miracle device, but it wasn't delivering. Tests were unreliable. Some had to be rerun on third-party machines. Some results were wrong. The company operated in extreme secrecy. Employees were compartmentalized, discouraged from talking, flagged for raising concerns. Yet publicly, the messaging stayed flawless: "We're changing the world." Investors kept pouring money. The tech press kept applauding. The brand kept climbing. But the foundation was shaky. In October 2015, the newspaper The Wall Street Journal began a series of investigations that questioned Theranos' claims. They uncovered that many of the hundreds of tests claimed by the company could not actually be run on the Edison device. Instead, traditional lab machines were used, while Theranos portrayed the results as having come from their technology. Regulators started to poke. Internal whistleblowers came forward. The illusion started to crack. The investors, the partners, the public began to ask, wait, how does this actually work? The very narrative that built Holmes' star started flipping. The gifted visionary became the founder of a company whose technology might not work as promised. In March 2018, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) charged Holmes and Theranos with massive investor fraud, raising more than $700 million via false or exaggerated statements about the company's technology, business, and financial performance. The company's valuation, once $9 billion, crumbled. The wealth once attributed to Holmes evaporated. By the time of her trial, Holmes was found guilty on 4 counts, 3 counts of wire fraud, 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, in January 2022. In November 2022, she was sentenced to 135 months, 11 years and 3 months, in prison. The empire she built collapsed, the shine faded. The questions she once shrugged off became the story. And the world watched as the founder who promised a miracle had to answer for illusions. What does the Elizabeth Holmes story tell us? Many things. It tells us about the power of narrative. When you combine vision plus charisma plus the right board plus media hype, you can raise billions. It tells us about the dangers of hubris, lack of oversight, blind faith in disruption without fundamentals. It tells us about how systems, investors, press, institutions sometimes want to believe so much they stop asking the hard questions. It tells us about ethics, accountability in innovation, because when something is too good to be true, maybe it is. If you're in the business of trading, of investing, of startups, of growth, let this story of Holmes and Theranos be a red flag reminder. Don't fall for the founder's aura alone. Look at the tech, the proof, the data. Ask, can this really do what is claimed? Ask, what evidence backs it up? Are there independent audits, experts, failures acknowledged? If you're pitching, don't build an illusion. Build something real, transparent, with integrity. In the age of fake it till you make it, the line between boldness and deception can get dangerously thin. Holmes crossed it and paid the price. It's also a human story. A brilliant young woman, ambitious, fearless, a culture and environment that elevated her. Then one built on facade. Relationships blurred. Her partner and COO, investments, board members. Lives impacted. Investors lost money. Patients may have received incorrect results. The cost wasn't just reputational, it was real. Holmes is now incarcerated, serving her sentence, paying restitution, and the world remains cautious about the next too-good-to-be-true founder.
So here we are. The empire of illusion collapsed, but the lessons remain. For every founder aiming for moonshots, for every investor chasing the next unicorn, for every trader analyzing the signal in noise. If you took away one thing, vision matters. Integrity matters more. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's one venture, startup, or investment you believe in that actually has real proof behind the promise? Drop it in the comments, send me your thoughts, tag me. And if you found this deep dive valuable, share it with someone in your network who chases growth, who invests, who builds. Because the next big illusion might be just around the corner, and we want to be ready. Thank you for sticking with the story right to the end. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and keep your vision real.